If you want to get the best possible tenants and get the most possible cash flow, stay tuned.
Or if you want to avoid those crappy tenants, those ones that are nightmares, evictions and late night phone calls, stay tuned also.
So now that you have this great property that's rehabbed and ready to get a good tenant in, how do you get that good tenant? There's a lot of different ways to get tenants in properties. What are some of your favorite ways, Brian?
I think the big dog on the block is Zillow, and most of our tenants come from Zillow. But what we do is we use Tenant Turnover, which just syndicates onto all the online sites. So it's just everywhere online, which is super cool. It makes it super easy for you. But I find the majority of our tenants, I would say well over half, probably like 80%, come from Zillow.
Yeah, from Zillow. So that Tenant Turnover, Show Mojo is another one. They basically take your property and they blast it out on all the sites. So you're getting in front of thousands and thousands of people, and it's basically just clicking one button after you fill out your application and fill out your criteria and everything. It's a great, easy way to have a secure property that has a lockbox, and that both of those sites allow people to give them lockbox code one at a time. So you're not just have a lockbox codes, everybody can get in your property. So it's a secure way to show your property, and it's a great way to get your property in front of thousands and thousands of people at a click of a button.
So another one of the places that I'm hearing from a lot of other people that they're doing really well with for finding good tenants is on Facebook Marketplace. You guys do that at all?
We don't do a whole lot of that. I have heard people doing that. Facebook is a place where millions and billions of people go to every single day. They're on it multiple times a day, so it makes sense. Facebook probably sees the opportunity to have people find properties through that, so that's probably a great way as well. Just utilizing technology, I guess, is the main thing. Whether it's the technology we named, Facebook. Don't do a whole bunch of Craigslist anymore, but just doing as much as you can online, so someone can be sitting at work getting ready to look for a house to rent next month, and they can click through 20, 30 houses while they're on their lunch break. It really makes it easy for people to see a lot of houses at a time.
People love to look at photos. Just scroll through photos of houses on their phone. So get it out there on the internet, Zillow, Facebook, any place you can get it out there on the internet. But make sure that you take awesome photos, because people just love scrolling through photos, and they'll decide which houses they're going to go look at based on the photos they see.
Yep, they will.
All right, some other ways to find great tenants is to just put a sign in the front yard. You'd be amazed at how many people will be just driving by and see a sign, and they're looking because they want to be in that neighborhood, or maybe their friends are in that neighborhood. Or you can just while you're fixing the house up, if you're doing the BRRRR method and you're fixing it up, just, when you see the neighbors out, just stop and say hi to the neighbors and say, hey, I'm going to be listing this house for rent soon, so if you want to pick your neighbor, that's a great way to spread the word about that your house is available for rent. Another thing that I find a lot of people that I know do, especially if their rental is a little bit a higher priced rental, is they'll list it with a local real estate agent. A lot of tenants are still today finding their next rental by calling a realtor and say, hey, can you help me find a rental? So just listing it with a local real estate agent can quite often find you a great tenant, and typically they'll take like 1 month's rent for that, so it's not a hugely expensive type of thing. Hey Sam, how do you guys decide how much you're going to ask for rent on one of your houses?
Great question, Brian.
So I do ask good questions.
You do sometimes. So it's kind of like anything else in the real estate industry. You see what else is out there. You look in the neighborhood, you look within a half a mile, you look in the same school district, you look for as similar houses possible. You look at other 3-2 ranches in the area, what they're going for, and you want to price yourself at what they're getting or slightly below what they're getting. Hopefully you've made your house nice, a great place to live, a good safe place, made the house really nice and place there someone was going to want to live. So if you do that and you look around and see what other houses are getting, price yourself at that or slightly below it. If you try and push the market too much, you could sit there for 3-4 weeks, and then someone goes and see this has been on the market for 4 weeks and kind of has some stink on it, and they may not go look at it.
So I hear a lot of people that just go into Zillow and they see what that rent number is, and that's what they ask. Do you guys do that?
We do that a little bit. We usually can push that a little bit.
Okay.
We usually find that we make our houses a little bit nicer because we just had rehabbed. We usually can beat that by about 50 to 100 grand, or $50 to $100. We can usually beat that by $50 to $100 depending on how nice the house is. But Zillow, we find that the Zestimate or Z-estimate, whatever you call it for rent, is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
They're never too far off, but I've found they're more on the conservative side. Do you find that as well?
I kind of find that they're fairly accurate, but yeah, I think a little on the conservative side. And we do look at assessment. That's one of the first things we look at, but then we look at other stuff too. Sometimes we look at that rental meter. Have you ever looked at rental meter?
We look at rental meter a little bit, and the other thing is you have so many properties, you kind of know what they're getting. The comparable that you're looking at is probably your house, because it could be one of your houses because you have so many in the area. So that's kind of another way. If you really get to know the market, it's just like any other part of real estate. You know, a certain area, a certain place, you know how much a house is worth. You probably know how much it's going to rent for.
It's just something. Rented a house up the street, and you know what kind of feedback you got and how quick it rented. You kind of know. Yeah,
I think it's important to be at the market and not try and push it too much. If somebody feels like they're getting a good deal, they'll be more excited about it. They, potentially, feel like they're, getting a good deal. They're going to take care of it a little more, as opposed to if someone's like, well, I'm paying over market rent for this. You need to be doing this, this, and this. You need to be taking care of me. I feel like they could potentially be a little more demanding if they feel like they're overpaying for something.
Yeah. If the house hasn't rented for let's say 3-4 weeks, will you lower the rent then?
Yeah, we do that a little bit. We'll usually lower $50 at a time if it has been 3-4 weeks. Especially right now, there's out there in our area and pretty much around the country, there's a lot of tenants out there. So if your house hasn't rented and then something's wrong with it. You either need to spend $1,000 repainting a couple rooms and putting new carpet in, or you need to lower your rent slightly. If it's not renting in the first 3-4 weeks, then you need to do something.
Awesome.
So as far as once you have the property out there at the right price and you're getting applicants, how do you go through and screen those? Because Brian, his average tenant stays there for 6 years, which is insane, because that's really how you can start to make money, is not having rental terms every 2 years, every 1 year. So that's a great way to increase cash flow, is having the tenant stay there, and your tenant length of stay is incredible. So how do you get those good tenants there in the first place?
Sometimes we just get lucky.
Yeah,
but
better be lucky than good.
But no, seriously, you gotta screen your tenants. Holy smokes! I saw a stat the other day, because honestly, I think. And I could find this stat, but I think we turn down about 8 or 9 tenants before we pick one on average. So that's roughly what we're doing right now. And sometimes I wonder, where do all these other tenants go? But I find that there's probably like 80% of the landlords out there that just own 1 or 2 houses, and they don't do a lot of screening because they're not professional at this. So it's really important to do good screening. And we have them fill out an application, obviously. Then we check their credit. We don't rely heavily on credit, but we do check it. We do a little background check, which is in our area. You can do that online. There's a service. It's just called CaseNet here, and probably every city has something along those lines. It's got public information on evictions and felonies, things along those lines. We make sure that they actually have enough income coming in to pay their rent, which our standard is that their take-home pay, their net income, is at least 3 times the rent.
Do you do net or gross? You say you do net?
We do net.
Okay.
I know a lot of people do gross.
We do gross, but yeah. Everybody can be different. You just kind of find what works for you. And
Totally, I totally agree with that. We used to do gross, and then we changed it to net, and it's part because we've been finding lately more and more people are getting garnishments off their check, and if you're looking at gross, they may be making a lot of money, but their ex-wife is getting out of it. So anyway, but okay. Then the next thing is to do is you make sure you check with landlord history. Most tenants have rented somewhere else, so check with whoever their current landlord is, and sometimes even we usually try to check their previous landlord too. So check landlord history, get a good landlord reference. Those are probably the big things that we do. Is there anything else that you do?
That's all that we do, and we've gotten a little more stringent as we've kind of grown our portfolio. At first, we definitely didn't have as strict of criteria, and that's when we would have evictions or late payments. And that's if a tenant doesn't pay for 2-3 months and they owe you $3-4 grand, and you send to the attorney, you get them evicted. That's cost you a lot of time, a lot of money. You're never going to get that 3-4 grand back. You might get some of it back, and then you send it to collections, and then the collection agent will take a percentage of it. So you're never going to see that money. So the best thing to do is set yourself up from the beginning as good as possible. Do you go visit the houses before you?
We do.
The tenants that they're currently living at the house, do you go visit them?
We do. So how we do that? We call it our home visit. It's the last thing we do on our tenant screening. And the reason we do it, well, let me tell you what it is, and then I'll tell you why. So after we kind of approved them on paper, we set up to go do the lease signing, their initial lease signing, but we do it at their home where they're currently living. You know, assuming they live in the area. Some people are moving in from out of state and you just can't realistically do that. But assuming they live in the area, we go sign up their lease at the house that they're currently living in. And reason we do that is because we ask to look around the house when we get there, and they know we're going to do that because we set it up. When we set up the appointment, we say the last piece of our screening criteria is that we're just going to do a home visit, and we're going to sign up your lease right then and there. And then when we get there, we just look around and make sure that they take good care of the house. Now, we're not like looking in closets or anything like that. We're just kind of just looking in general. Do they keep the house well maintained? Do they vacuum? Do they, clean the kitchen? Do they take care of their yard? Because, one of the big maintenance things is, they don't ever clean their gutters or trim around their fence rows or maintain their landscaping, which we try to keep landscaping to a minimum. But if they don't, whatever's there, if they don't maintain it, then you're going to have to maintain it as a landlord.
Yeah, the city, we've gotten notices from the city about, brush around fence lines and stuff like that. So you can try to go charge them back for it, and if it's not in your lease, it gets messy. But it falls back on you. And if they know you're coming, if they have a week or two heads up, they know you're coming, and they still don't clean the property, then that's a good, they could not, live the cleanest, but at least you know that they're cleaning up and get ready for you.
Yes.
If they don't, then you know that it's probably not going to work out.
Exactly. It's a great little criteria to make sure that you don't. The biggest expense for landlords typically is tenant turnover. When one tenant moves out and you got to get the house ready for the next one. And if you got a tenant that does a lot of damage, it's not unheard of for a tenant to do $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 worth of damage if they're a bad tenant. And you can eliminate those type of tenants by doing this home visit before you let them, when you do your initial lease signing. See, I'm sure you've had instances before where you've gotten multiple leases coming in at the same time. Is there any rules you need to follow if you got like several applications that come in?
Yeah, basically the rules is you need to treat everyone the same. You can't treat someone different because of certain criteria. If they meet your minimum criteria and they have an approved application first, you need to go with them first. You can't hold back on somebody. If they meet all your criteria, if they don't meet your criteria, that's completely different.
Yeah.
But if they meet all your criteria and they send in an application and you have one that that's coming in a few days, you can't wait on that one. You have to treat everyone the same, treat everyone fair, whatever your guidelines are. Pets, no pets, whatever it is, you have to treat everyone the same. Is that kind of what you guys do?
Yeah, it is. And what happens to us a lot is we get people that have partial apps in. So they fill out the application, but they haven't given us their paycheck stubs or something like that. So it's not a completed app until we have everything that is on our application checklist. So sometimes we'll have one that comes in but it's not complete, and then we have somebody else that comes in later but they get us all their information quickly. So that's the first completed app. So you got to if you have completed apps, you definitely got to follow the process. Make sure if they qualify, if they meet your minimum standards, that you take that person.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's a key note to notice is once the timestamp is when it's completely completed. If someone puts one in and is delaying getting you income verification or delaying getting you what you need or paying for the application, that's not a completed app. Once you get your completed app is kind of when the clock starts and when you need to make sure to treat everyone the same.
Yep, and it's important to just treat everybody the same, right?
Yep.
Just be fair with everybody.
Just be fair. If you do the right thing and treat everyone fair, you're not going to get in trouble.
That's the key word. Do the right thing.
Yep.
I love hearing people's stories about some of their favorite tenants or their favorite deals or whatever. So you got a good tenant story?
We got a good tenant story that we kind of screwed up, but we ended up getting lucky. So we had a tenant that we approved that was a lawyer. He was a prosecuting attorney for a local township. So he made enough money, but he got behind. He didn't have any cases. We let him get behind 3 or 4 months. So he owed us over $4,000. We were trying to evict him. The day before the eviction went, he's a lawyer. He knows they'll want an eviction on your record. So he said, I'll meet you at the property. We'll walk through it. I'm moving out and I'll give you your money. So I didn't. So me and my partner Lucas went to go meet him, not really thinking we were going to get our money. So we pull up. The guy's driving a 2016 Mercedes, really nice car. He gets out of it. He's got a pistol on his hip, outside of his shirt. And he said, obviously he wants us to see that he has a pistol. He says, is it okay if I have this pistol? I'm like, okay, it's fine that you have the pistol. So we walk in the house and he gives us $4,000 cash, just like that, which we did not expect. And then we walk through the property and kind of see the condition of it. while he's smoking a cigar and drinking a 24-ounce Bud Light Select at 10 o'clock in the morning. So hopefully he didn't have to go to court later that day. But just kind of having that experience, and then there was a couple couches and TVs in the property, and he said, I'm going to leave these here, and we said it's going to cost us money to remove them. He said, how much money? And I think we said $200. So he gave us another $200 cash. So he was just cash rich at the time. Usually if you let someone $4,000, behind, you're not going to get your money. So that was kind of a good ending to a lesson learned that we didn't have to pay the price for. Luckily, usually the lesson learned you have to pay the price.
Usually you do.
Do you have
That's a great story.
My guess is you got a story that you didn't screw up as bad that you can tell.
Well, let me think. Okay, so my favorite tenants.
Okay, yeah.
So every once in a while you get lucky, and I'll just tell a story. I had somebody that called me that was late on their payments and needed help, and they had equity in the house, but they had bad credit and so forth, so they couldn't refinance the house. So he asked if I would buy it and rent it back to him on a lease with an option to purchase. So I said sure. So I got a good deal on it, but I rented it back to him at a fair price and gave him an opportunity to buy the house back. So I think that was 2005. So it's 2020 now, so 15 years ago. The dude's still living in the house, still paying the rent, and he treats the house like it's his because it used to be his, so he never calls me about any maintenance issues. So, Sam, I think I put a 20-year amortization on that house.
So you almost got paid off.
Oh, he almost paid the whole dang thing off. And I've had, I think we put a new roof on it because the roof had gotten bad and it had a roof leak, and he obviously didn't have the money to replace the roof. But other than that, I don't think I've ever had to do any maintenance at the house or anything. So
Probably
I think
good
that's
cash flow for you, yeah.
It's good cash flow, and the dude essentially bought me a house.
Yeah. I like it. That's perfect. If you guys have any stories of any tenants, anything good or bad that's happened, interesting, comment below in the notes, and we'll comment back and kind of have a conversation of all the fun stuff and all the crazy stuff that happens when you have tenants at properties. So Brian, how important is it to get a good tenant in place?
It's super important because you bought a house, you fixed it up nice, you want to maintain your asset. So the biggest way to screw it up is by putting a tenant in there that either doesn't pay on time and you have to evict and do it over, or that, worse yet even, is somebody that does a lot of damage to your house. So it's super important to find a good tenant, screen them well, and it's probably the most important thing is getting good at selecting a really good
You
tenant.
spend a lot of time and money making a really nice house, a really good place to live. Get someone good to live in there. You'll make more money. They'll be happy, and it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah. Select good tenants and manage them well.
Yeah, so the most costly thing after you rehab the property and refinance out, the most costly thing is turnover. When a tenant moves out, even if they've taken really good care of the property, it's going to need something done to it. A few things you might be able to, just clean it, whatever that case may be. More than likely, you're not going to have a tenant move in and a tenant move out, or a tenant move out and a tenant move in that very next day.
Yeah, it's different. Especially if you're doing single-family rentals. If single-family rentals is just different than apartments. But I don't know. What would you say is the average that you spend from when a tenant moves out to when you put a new one in, as far as sprucing it back up?
Yeah, so a lot of the properties we bought have had tenant occupied, so we didn't repair. So those definitely, if we buy a property that's in good shape but is tenant occupied and we didn't do the repairs, it's probably a couple grand, and it's potentially stuff that the tenant didn't even do to it. So, but if we rehabbed it and then got it rented, it's at least $1,000, maybe $1,500. You feel the same, and it's not all stuff that you can go back to the tenant on. It's just stuff that happens when you own a property.
Yeah, I would say on average for us it's probably $1,500 to $2,000, just on your typical average turnover of a house that we've owned for a while. I think that's typical. But what's the worst one you've ever had?
Well, the worst one we've ever had is we bought a property that was occupied when we had it. The tenant had been there for a long time, and the property needed probably $20,000 to $25,000 to get it rent ready. And we had bought it 6 months ago with the tenant in it, so we didn't know what the tenant did or didn't do. There were broken windows. We didn't know when things happened, so we basically just fixed it up and sold it at that point because we've already had refinanced out. You don't want to come $20,000 out of pocket. Do you have anything like that happen? Yeah,
we've had it happen a few times, and we've gotten better at it over the years, but it still happens occasionally where I think we spend You know what, we actually, last year we had one, a house that we wanted to keep, a house that we really liked. Actually, that house, now that I think about it, we did buy it with that tenant in it, and so we had never spruced it up. Kind of same scenario as you have there. But yeah, I think we spent 20 grand on the turnover on that house. But we made it nice, we updated it a little bit and stuff. So tenant turnover is the most expensive thing. If you buy a house, you're doing the BRRRR method, you get it fixed up really nice. You don't want it to get it destroyed. But if you're doing it right, you're selecting your correct tenants and you're managing them well, you know, it should be between $1,000 and $2,000 for a turnover.
Yeah, no matter what, it's going to cost you money when they leave to fix things in, then there's vacancy.
Yeah.
More than likely, they're not going to have a tenant move in the day after the other one moves out. So you're going to be paying, you know, you're going to be able to pay, having to pay the insurance and the mortgage and everything on it out of your pocket, not out of the tenant's pocket. So no matter what, it's going to cost you money. So the best thing to do is get a good tenant in place. So hopefully they're taking care of it and stay in a while. If they move out once every 4 or 5 years, it costs you a lot less money than if they're moving out every year. So just get a good tenant that's going to stay a long time, take care of them, and you should have the best cash flow possible.
And we live in this weird place in St. Louis, Missouri, where there's all kinds of little municipalities. St. Louis is a metro area, but there's probably like 90 different little municipalities around here. And most of them have an occupancy inspection. So every time one of those tenants turn over, every time you have a new tenant moving in, you got to do an occupancy inspection. And those inspectors, you know, sometimes they go fine, but more often than not, they ask for something.
Yes.
It's their job, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's a cost that comes up at turnover also.
So basically what we're trying to say is there's a lot of different ways, things that are going to cost you money. Inspection items, items you need fixed, lost rent. It's going to cost you money to get tenants, one tenant turnover. So the best way to reduce that is to get good tenants in the first place.
And let them stay a long time.
So if you enjoyed the video, we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe, if you'd hit that notification bell, if you'd like the video, get involved in our community, and hopefully we can have some good content for you in the future.
Love to hear from you. All right, I'm gonna wing it, okay?
You wing it, go ahead.
I'm gonna wing it with you.
Wing it.
Sam's gonna get better at winging it.
It's fun. I like to wing it.